All right, thinking about buying a house in 2025, you want to know what's going to happen. Is housing affordability going to get better? Will you have a better chance of buying if you feel like you've been shut out? In this video, I'm going to talk about what I see in the housing market going forward in 2025. I'm going to talk about the current administration's talk about how they're going to make housing more affordable. You will read in headlines, and there's really great titles and stuff that's going to get you to click that says $50,000 off. That's not what I'm going to give you today. I'm going to give you the honest truth, some things that can and will likely happen, how long it's going to take, what you can expect as an average home buyer, as a mortgage broker who's closed thousands of transactions, who's in it all day, every day, writing mortgage, talking to real estate agents. So let's jump right into it. First and foremost, what I want you to think about for 2025, and I just talked about this at a real estate meetup that I was at recently. It is full of opportunity for those that are, one, patient, two, able to get creative, right? When things are easy, everyone's going to do it. Right now, housing, buying a house, it's not easy. That's the truth of the matter. And so those that are willing to put in the work, they're willing to get creative, they're willing to take a couple swings and strike out and keep swinging, even though they've gone out and they've submitted a couple offers. They've asked for a discount. They haven't got it. I think that there's going to be discounts. There's going to be seller concessions. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for buyers. But what you really want to know is if you click on a video that says $50,000 off, the average house cost about $400,000, are we going to wave a magic wand and home prices are suddenly going to be 350 grand? Well, it's not that easy. So what I'm going to share with you, we'll go through this document, is a 10-point plan to tame shelter inflation and ease the housing affordability crisis. This is by the National Association of Home Builders. Trump, on one of his first days in office, had an executive order where he wanted to make housing and housing affordability a point of a national issue, right? So the executive order is seeking the lower cost of housing. One of those ways is by increasing supply. So how do you lower the cost and increase supply? National home builders will be involved, right? Because they can build more houses and that's more supply. They're also going to be involved with the cost-cutting measures, because the price of the house that the consumer pays is going to be correlated with how much it costs the builder to build. And this is where I'm going to give my insight a little bit later on what I think we need to remember and some things we need to put in place. So if building a house becomes cheaper, it doesn't just make all the home buyers rich and they make more of a margin. That savings has to be passed on to the consumer. So let's go through this. I'm going to read it, give you my intake. But reminder before we do this, I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell you now, home prices are not going to go down by $50,000, probably not by $40,000. Seeing a big, cut in home prices is, one, going to take time if it happens at all. Two, to make it happen at all, you're going to have to see a lot of supply. And that, quite honestly, doesn't happen quickly. You don't build 5 million homes in 6 months. It's just not possible. There's no precedence for it. And we've already got a shortage. So it's going to take time. If you're holding your breath, hoping that you're going to pay less for a home 3 months from now, stop holding your breath. Go out there and get creative. Get with a great agent. Get with a great lender. Greatmortgagebroker.com is a great place to start. And put yourself together a deal. Housing, the best way to win in housing is to buy something and hold on to it for the long term. Talk to someone who bought a house 10, 15, 20 years ago. Ask them how they feel about it. 99.9% of the time, they feel really good. They're paying much less than they would if they're renting a place. It might not have been the same when they first bought. They might have been paying $400 more than their neighbor was paying for rent next door, but they built equity. They refinanced over time. The next door's rent rates went up and whatnot. And so over time, you win. All right, let's jump into this quickly. Again, this is from the National Association of Home Builders, a 10-point housing plan. kind of hard to see. I'll try to blow it up, but I don't know if that's going to help on the screen there, but I'll talk through it because, there's a shortage, like this article says, of 1.5 million housing units. And so it's making it increasingly difficult for families to afford to purchase or rent a home. And the reason why less homes make it less affordable is just supply and demand. When there's less of something that everybody wants and needs, and let's be honest, roof over your head is something that everybody needs, it's going to have upward pressure on prices. And that's what we've seen over the last decade. We were 3 million, 4 million, 5 million houses short. Whoever you were listening to or watching, like the number was different, but with such a shortage of supply, we couldn't build fast enough. And the latest numbers I've seen is that the number of households being formed versus the number of housing supply units entering the market, we're running at a deficit. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. So solutions must be implemented at local, state, and federal levels. I agree. The federal government can't just create a program that's going to fix housing. It's got to be done with policymakers at all levels of government, starting local, right? Because if I want more affordable housing in Sacramento, the federal government doesn't have a lot of input. But if there's regulations that start there that make it less red tape and regulation to build in Sacramento, that's where it starts. And that's number one on this 10-point strategy: eliminate excessive regulations. 25% of the cost to build a house, that's what this report said, is regulations, right? So you build a $400,000 house, $100,000 of that $400,000 is in regulation, right? So eliminate excessive regulations. There's got to be some, right? But you can definitely bring down that cost of that $400,000 house if that $100,000 that's associated with regulations goes down to $70,000 or $60,000 or $50,000, and then pass on 80% of that to the consumer. And all of a sudden, the consumer's paying $365. Consumer would be stoked. 2, promote careers in the skilled trades. Huge shortage of construction workers, right? And when there's a shortage of construction workers, the ones that are working demand a higher wage. And so it perpetuates the problem. If nobody wants to do construction in California and you've got to pay a guy $50 an hour to do the construction work, that cost is going to get baked into the final price of housing. And so train more of them, get more skilled construction workers out there. Not only could you build cheaper, more importantly, you could build more, right? Maybe you don't even have to pay them less because there's more of them. Maybe you pay them the same, or you can pay them more, but you're just able to build a lot more housing. Number 3, fix building material supply chains and ease costs. 38% uptick in building materials. We all saw what was going on with lumber. And in 2021, when lumber spiked, the average new single-family home saw a 30% increase in just the lumber cost, right? If there's more regulation, if lumber costs more, if there's a shortage of workers and you got to pay them more, all this stuff gets baked in. Now, all of a sudden, you're paying 20, 30, 40% more for a home because of all the extra costs associated with building the darn thing. Number 4, pass federal tax legislation to expand the production of affordable and attainable housing. I think there's some stuff being done here. I know it's tough, right? You've got to create legislation. And when you're building big apartment complexes or you're building communities, you've got to give tax credits as long as they meet a mandate for X percentage of those have to be geared towards middle income households, teachers, healthcare professionals, law enforcement. Some of that stuff is going on. You need more of that. Need more of that to be passed. Number 5, overturn inefficient local zoning rules. I'm in California, so you don't have to tell me about inefficient zoning rules and the length of time that it takes to get through all the red tape for anybody trying to add housing stock. We want to add more housing. There's investors out there that want to go out there, build more housing, create more housing units by adding an ADU or splitting a lot and adding another single family residence. The rules are insane, right? And we know it well here in California. You've got to overturn some of those stupid zoning rules. Number 6, alleviate permitting roadblocks, permitting delays. It's crazy. And there's some stats in here. Washington, the Building Industry Association of Washington, estimate that the permitting delay in the state is 6.5 months, right? And you know what comes with delays? More holding costs for whoever's building it. That's all this stuff ultimately adds cost. We want to eliminate red tape, eliminate permitting roadblocks, cut the cost for the builder and pass on the savings to the consumer. It's stuff that all makes sense, right? Adopt reasonable and cost-effective building codes. That's number 7. New homes are energy efficient, resilient, but there continues to be a push to mandate restrictive, costly energy codes that raise housing costs while not providing a lot of energy savings to consumers. So HUD, USDA, you've got to build it to a certain code, International Energy Conservation Code, in order to build, but you got to make these things reasonable, right? They've done research, right? And it would require 90 years for a home buyer to realize a payback on the added upfront. It's like, so if my home's more energy efficient, it saves me $9 a month, but it costs me an extra 20 grand. Not helpful for the average consumer, right? If it's going to take 90 years of payback. And so that's part of it, right? Is it's not just the cost of the home, but it's the cost of everything related. The energy, the insurance, all of it. Number 8, reduce local impact fees and other upfront taxes associated with housing construction. They really do. This is the way to do it. You have to lower fees on construction. And here's where I was going to interject earlier. I'll do it now. If a home builder, I have no idea what home builders' margins are, but let's say they build a home for $400,000 and they sell it for $500,000, right? 20% margin. If they can build that same home for $350,000 because one or some or a number of these different things cumulatively together, save $50,000, they've got to pass some of that on to the end buyer. If it cost them $400,000, they sold it for $500,000, 25% markup. If they bought it for $350,000 and you applied that same math, $437,500 is the cost of the home. Now the problem is if they save $50,000, that's not right, is it? Oh yeah, so even if their spread doesn't come down, right? Even if their spread is still $100,000, but they sell it for $450,000, that full $50,000 is being passed on to the consumer. Whatever it is, it can't be cost savings just for the builder to make more margin. That's my whole point in that. Number 9, make it easier for developers to finance new housing. Have programs out there to fund builders. Less carrying costs, more incentive to build. What do they do when there's more incentive to build? Via, new financing options, maybe some tax incentives, they'll build more. When they build more, what happens? The price comes down. Voila. Number 10, update employment policies to promote flexibility and opportunity. Building a typical single-family home requires the skills and commitment of 11 to 30 independent specialty trade contractor firms. Subcontracting out large portions has consistently proven to keep housing production costs low and provide opportunities for small businesses. But you want them to be efficient. You want to build it cheap, right? And so there's a balance there, right? Where if you want to bring national builders to a place and be able to employ some local skilled trades, a lot of work to be done. So this 10-point program, they rolled this out sometime in 2024. Now in 2025, they've probably got, this administration's backing to make some of this stuff happen. So we'll see. But moral of the story, home prices won't be down tomorrow or next month or even next year. Over time, if some of this stuff gets implemented years down the road, homes are going to hopefully become more affordable. And here's the thing, we could have, a decade-long run with not a lot of price growth. Your home that's worth $500,000 today, only worth $550 in 10 years would be historically pretty low growth. But over those 10 years, if your income increased every year, 3%, 4%, 5% a year, then on the affordability scale, homes would be quote unquote more affordable. So hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, greatmortgagebroker.com. That's how you connect with me and my team. We're more than happy to help. So greatmortgagebroker.com. We're licensed in 48 states. Reach out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.